TRC, implement this program on behalf of PG&E. And we also implement a few other programs too, so the California Advanced Homes Program, and we'll be starting the Multifamily Upgrade Program. So if you have any new single-family projects or rehab projects coming up, you can go ahead and get in touch with us after this webinar. We'd love to hear about them. So next slide. So as a whole, TRC, we implement programs just like California Multifamily New Homes, CAP, California Advanced Homes Program. We also do work to support the codes and standards enhancements. And then in addition, we do work on emerging technologies and evaluation. So we are experts on multifamily. So that's what this webinar is about today. And if you guys have any projects in early design phases, certainly get in touch with us. We're happy to give a second opinion on your design and can help to inform ways to bring your projects higher above Title 24. Next slide. So CMFNH, California Multifamily New Homes, we're actually accepting applications right now through November 15th. So one of our big offerings is incentives for performance, also incentives to offset HERS expenses, and an incentive for the Title 24 consultant. As I mentioned, we also provide design assistance and education opportunities like this webinar today. We've been doing a series also on next generation construction techniques. So we have already presented on high performance attics, and then we'll have a webinar coming up on high R-value walls in December. So I'll send out a follow-up email with registration information for that webinar. And we can also support coordination with different programs. So we are talking about the Energy Star Multifamily High Rise program. We can also help to support your coordination with the new Solar Homes Partnership, Greenpoint Rated, LEED. So if you're interested in that, just let us know. Next slide. So eligible customers for California Multifamily New Homes. So projects have to be 3 or more attached units, new construction. This year's requirement is that projects must exceed Title 24 standards, the 2013 standards, by 15% or more for high-rise. And for low-rise, it's a score of 84 or lower. So we've done a few presentations on these eligibility requirements. I can send out information about those as well in our follow-up email. The big thing is right now we are accepting applications and the deadline is coming up. So if you are interested in applying, please let me know and we'll get started on that right away. Next slide. Okay, so I think I'm ready to introduce our panelists. So Gayathri at Stephen Winters Associates is our main panelist today, and she has been working really hard over the past couple of years to develop kind of a parallel structure for California to implement the Multifamily High Rise program for Energy Star. So there's a lot of parallel prerequisites with Title 24 so that the two programs are more compatible. And she's also been working with Ted Liopke at EPA and Jeff Stoller with TRC, and they're both online as well, as I mentioned before. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Gayathri, and I'll let you do the introduce the structure of what you'll be talking about today.
Thanks, Shannon. Can everyone hear me all right now? Have I unmuted myself?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. As Shannon mentioned, Energy Star has been working hard to adapt the national program to meet the specific needs here in California. So we'll start today's session with some broad, high-level information about the various Energy Star programs and the development and design of the Energy Star Multifamily program. There are 2 programs, one for low-rise multifamily and one for high-rise multifamily, and we'll focus today's session just on the high-rise program. I'll cover some of the benefits of building to Energy Star multifamily standards, the overall certification process, and then get into some specific mandatory technical requirements that might be different from what you currently do for multifamily high-rise projects that are just meeting 2013 Title 24 standards or participating in the California Multifamily New Homes program. Finally, I'll just wrap up with some resources that are available online and take any remaining questions. As Shannon mentioned, these slides will be provided after the webinar, and we've embedded some useful hyperlinks in them, so hopefully you will find the PDF of the slides to be a useful resource as well. So I'm sure most of you are already somewhat familiar with ENERGY STAR. The logo is a national symbol that is recognized by more than 85% of all households to mean energy efficiency. You might not know that ENERGY STAR does more than just certify light bulbs and appliances as being energy efficient, but there are programs to certify homes and buildings as ENERGY STAR 2. In general, a product or building that has been ENERGY STAR certified is 15 to 25% more efficient than a code-compliant version. So the ENERGY STAR residential branch has had guidelines to certify new construction single-family homes as ENERGY STAR for quite some time, and has well over 1 million homes that have been through the process and been certified. These homes can range from single-family detached homes to apartments within low-rise multifamily buildings. For a very long time, the program did not have any guidelines that covered mid- or high-rise buildings. So after a 6-year multifamily high-rise pilot from 2005 to 2011, a certification program for these buildings was launched. So we're not going to spend too much time on eligibility today, but in general, whatever your configuration of multifamily building, there is an ENERGY STAR certification program available to you. So if what you see here on this slide doesn't exactly match the definitions used by Title 24 or the eligibility needed for California multifamily new homes, ENERGY STAR and TRC will work with you to make sure the certification is as aligned as possible. In general, ENERGY STAR accepts low-rise multifamily buildings and some mid-rise multifamily buildings into the same exact certification program that we make available to single-family homes. So these include all multifamily buildings that are 3 stories and less, and then we also include 4- and 5-story multifamily buildings that have all in-unit heating, cooling, and hot water systems, and less than 20% common space. So you might notice that, some of these 4- and 5-story mid-rise buildings might be treated as high-rise in Title 24 or the California Multifamily New Homes Program, whereas in terms of ENERGY STAR, we kind of treat it as a low-rise building. If it's not eligible for the Certified Homes Program, it will get certified through the Multifamily High Rise Program, which is, again, the focus of the presentation today. So these tend to be the really tall high-rise buildings, 6 stories and higher, and any of those 4- and 5-story multifamily buildings that had either some kind of centralized system for either heating, cooling, or hot water, or they had more than 20% residential associated common space. So even though this presentation is going to focus, again, on our multifamily high-rise program, which is for new construction and significant gut rehabs, I just want to mention that as of September of this year, the ENERGY STAR commercial program started offering an opportunity to existing multifamily properties to also earn the ENERGY STAR. So that wasn't an opportunity that was available up until this year. So this is very similar to the way other commercial buildings like an office or a retail store can earn the ENERGY STAR. It is actually based on the annual utility bills for the building. So using a database of energy use by building type, if the bills for your building show that you have less energy use than 75% of your peers for that same building type, that building can earn the ENERGY STAR. So there are some inspection requirements, and you will need access to all the bills for the building, including all the apartments, which can be a challenge in multifamily high-rise, especially if the tenants pay those bills. But the certification is available after 1 year of occupancy, so new construction buildings after 1 year of occupancy could start applying for this each year. And if you are interested, when you get the PDF of these slides, if you click on this is a hyperlink that will take you directly to the commercial page that talks a little bit more about how you get certified. Again, this is for existing multifamily properties. So that's an overview of the various ENERGY STAR programs that are available, although the ENERGY STAR logo is well recognized to mean energy efficient. In terms of buildings, the certification process also results in buildings that are more affordable because they actually perform better and have lower energy bills. They tend to be more comfortable and durable due to some of the non-energy specific requirements that we have in our ENERGY STAR program. And they can often qualify a building for either preferred financing and sometimes utility incentives. In terms of recognition, the ENERGY STAR logo is made available to our multifamily high-rise developer partners. so that they can promote themselves as being an ENERGY STAR partner. And then throughout the certification process for their building, they can promote their building as being ENERGY STAR. Other recognition comes in the form of awards. Multifamily high-rise developer partners are automatically eligible for the annual Market Leader Award, which is based on the number of certified units completed in a given year. The Partner of the Year Award requires an application. That one's due in December. And instead of being based on just the number of certified units, it's actually based on the partner's promotion and marketing of ENERGY STAR. The final benefit to multifamily high-rise developers is that all their buildings, all the certified buildings, as well as buildings that are currently being designed to meet the ENERGY STAR standards, get listed on this online locator. So just like you can search for an ENERGY STAR refrigerator or ENERGY STAR dishwasher using the online directory, potential renters and home buyers can search for ENERGY STAR certified apartments and condos in multifamily high-rise buildings using this tool. So for those of you who are interested, we only have one project so far that has achieved the multifamily high-rise certification in California. This is in Oakland and was certified back in 2012. I think we have one other project in the pipeline. But there is an opportunity if you are working with developers that like to promote themselves and say they were the first in a certain city or a certain area. There's plenty of opportunity for that in California. So that covers at a high level the overall idea behind ENERGY STAR and a brief introduction into the various certification programs and some benefits. Again, this webinar is only going to focus on multifamily high-rise and not low-rise multifamily. But before we go into the actual technical requirements, I want to go through the certification process, and hopefully you'll see how this aligns really well with the process for California Multifamily New Homes Program. So the first step is for the developer to become an ENERGY STAR partner. So this is a quick online process, and when you get this, when you get the PDF of these slides, you'll see that this is a hyperlink that will take you directly to the web page so that they can start that process. The next step will be to download the project application, which is a PDF that asks for basic information about the proposed building, the design team, and a tentative construction schedule. This PDF application is emailed to ENERGY STAR and basically just enrolls you into a certain version of the ENERGY STAR program. So ENERGY STAR Multifamily High Rise is currently in version 1, but at some point if we launch a version 2, having this project application in place enables you to certify under the guidelines that were available at the time of your application. So basically it's grandfathering you into a certain version of the program. This is similar to registering a project for LEED and being locked into a certain rating system. So the other thing the application does is start the clock on a 3-year deadline, in which you don't have to complete the building, but you do have to make it to the end of the design phase. So the developer's role in our program, basically as the ENERGY STAR partner, the developer's role is to commit to complying with the program requirements and working with a licensed professional to ensure that all those requirements are being met. So the expectation is that the developer will ensure that access is given for all the inspections that are needed. And since the ENERGY STAR program is free and voluntary, that the developer also bears the cost of implementation. So both hard costs for measures and soft costs for the project team to conduct the energy modeling and site visits needed for ENERGY STAR certification. As you'll see, based on some of the similarities to the requirements in 2013 Title 24 and the California Multifamily New Homes Program, the added costs for ENERGY STAR certification are expected to be minimal. The licensed professional that is working on behalf of the developer is generally the project engineer or maybe the project architect, but is not required to be. So any registered architect or professional engineer can serve as a licensed professional. So if you have a HERS rater or energy consultant or a plans examiner that actually has a license as an architect or engineer, they can serve as in this role. So what they are required to do is to submit the actual project application, that PDF that we were just talking about. They oversee the overall verification process during construction, conduct the quality assurance, and then validate 2 submittals that come to ENERGY STAR that document that both the proposed design of the building as well as the final constructed building meet the ENERGY STAR requirements. So usually the licensed professional during the design phase is going to review the ENERGY STAR program requirements and make sure that all those requirements are being incorporated into the construction documents. prior to the permit or bid set. The licensed professional does not have to be the one to conduct the energy modeling, but they need to just make sure that the energy modeling results do show that it's 15% above code savings. So for you guys, it's 2013 Title 24, same as California Multifamily New Homes Program. So once this work has been done, then the licensed professional sends a submittal to Energy Star, and that's just by sending the documents to our email address. So that submittal includes 3 pieces. The first is a summary showing that the energy model demonstrates performance of 15% above 2013 Title 24. The second is an Excel file that documents the plan review process and demonstrates that all the Energy Star prerequisites have been incorporated into the construction document. So we'll get into some more details about this later, and we can actually offer a follow-up webinar on how to use these tools. But for now, just know that there's an Excel file that is part of this proposed design submittal. The third piece of the submittal is a validation form, which is simply signed and stamped by the licensed professional. And again, Energy Star is going to work closely with TRC so that we can align both our review processes. We know that they have a plan review process similar to ours, so we're going to try and make it as streamlined as possible if you choose to participate in both. So the next step after doing the proposed design submittal, Energy Star is going to review it, and once it's approved, the building goes into the construction phase, which will ultimately lead to the second and final submittal, which is the as-built submittal. So throughout the construction phase, various inspections and tests are being performed that are required by Title 24, so those don't change. But there could be some additional inspections and tests that are required by Energy Star that are outlined in our testing and verification protocols that also need to be conducted during that same time. So these Energy Star testing and verification protocols, they basically ensure that the energy conservation measures that were chosen to achieve that 15% savings, that they're installed properly. And our protocols also require inspections of certain details that can impact efficiency, comfort, and durability. So the goal of having this process is so that we can identify and correct any kind of mistake during construction itself rather than having them become problems during occupancy. And again, we want these buildings to perform at a high level, not just model at a high level. So we need to ensure that all the measures are being tested and performing correctly. Again, some of the 2013 Title 24 inspections are part already of our testing and verification procedure. And some of the things that we require in multifamily high-rise might be completely new to you. So we'll go over a couple of those. So in general, Title 24 requires that you inspect or test building components like the hot water systems, the building envelope, and the heating and cooling systems. Energy Star probably has some tests and procedures that are slightly different than Title 24 for those same components. And in addition, we have protocols for other things like lighting, appliances, ventilation, and blower door testing, which might be things that you aren't considering at this point. So we don't have time today to go into all the finer details of these tests, but the only other Energy Star requirement that's related to testing and verification is actually how the results get documented and submitted to Energy Star. So that same Excel file that was used to document the findings of the plan review during the proposed design submittal, that gets used to document the results of the actual field inspections and the actual performance tests. So this file, this Excel file, was developed as a tool so that design teams and field inspectors could make sure they were meeting all of our program requirements, not only in the construction documents, but also in the field, and then a way for them to simply just submit that same exact Excel file to Energy Star to fulfill the reporting requirements that we have. So again, this Excel file gets submitted twice, once during the proposed design submittal, which just documents the plan review part, and then it gets edited and submitted again as part of the as-built submittal, which will now just include some of the final test results. So the as-built submittal then has 4 components, the same 3 that we just discussed in the proposed design submittal, and they're just updated to match as-built conditions, as well as include performance testing results, and then one additional piece, which is called the photo template. So this is where any photo documentation that is required by Energy Star Multifamily High Rise gets collected and inserted into this Word-based template. So the goal, again, for us is to harmonize as much as possible with the current CMFNH process. So wherever we can identify reviews that are overlapping, we're going to work with TRC to make sure we're not adding on extra layers of requirements for you, and we'll try to do as much as we can on the back end to make it very seamless for you guys. So once Energy Star gets that final as-built submittal, reviews it, and approves it, the developer is going to get notified that Energy Star certification was achieved. And then the final step is to make sure that the building is set up in Portfolio Manager in order to fulfill the developer's final commitment, which is to benchmark the building for 2 years using Portfolio Manager. So for the Portfolio Manager is an online tool that has been developed by Energy Star. Some local states and governments require benchmarking. It's actually also going to be the way that you can get the annual recertification that I mentioned that's being offered by the commercial program. It has 2 components to it. It's not just comparing yourself to other buildings. The first piece of benchmarking is just data entry, looking and tracking the energy use of your building and evaluating it compared to years before, as well as comparing it to other buildings. Often there's immediate value in just looking at the energy bills. You can quickly identify billing errors, or if you've included new systems for lighting, if you're not seeing any savings in electricity, then you can identify quickly that something's gone wrong and they're not performing the way you expected. So even before the commercial program extended the Energy Star to existing multifamily buildings, almost 20,000 multifamily buildings were using Portfolio Manager just for the sake of benchmarking because of the value it provides the building owner in terms of reducing their actual energy use. So that's the overview of the certification process and how it aligns with the California Multifamily New Homes Program. We can move on to the technical requirements for Energy Star Multifamily High Rise, unless, Shannon, you've noticed any questions that have come in at this point in terms of eligibility or just certification in general.
Yeah, actually just one question so far, and if you have any other questions about certification, feel free to type those in now. We can take them now, or we can take them at the end of the webinar. So the question I have is, can a building lose its Energy Star certification?
No. So a new construction multifamily high-rise building is going to get their certification after it's gone through a review process. So if it passes the proposed design submittal and it gets approved, and then it passes the as-built submittal and gets approved, the units in that building are considered Energy Star certified, and that never goes away. The label that gets renewed every year is the one that's offered more by the commercial program. And that one is annual, so it'll have if you look at the label, if you've walked into a retail store and you see an Energy Star logo or a plaque on the front, it'll say 2011 or 2012. Again, those can't be removed, but they're dated. So I guess the answer is no. We do not come back and rip Energy Star labels off of any buildings.
Can you talk a little bit about the commitment to benchmarking? So it's not a requirement per se, but it's strongly recommended. Is that right?
I'm not sure if Ted wants to chime in on that one, but it is, I think as of January 1, it is going to be a requirement rather than just a commitment. Again, it's one of those things in terms of language that we can't, if a developer does not benchmark their building for the 2 years, at the end of 2 years, we can't come back and take the label away. So it's kind of between a commitment and a requirement in the sense that we can't come back 2 years later and take away the label.
Right, right. I think that answers my question. So I think we're ready to move on.
Okay, great. So as mentioned briefly before, the Energy Star Multifamily High Rise program has some mandatory measures that we refer to as prerequisites, similar to the way the LEED rating system has prerequisites. So some of these are measures you might already be doing because they are already required by 2013 Title 24. Some of them might be things you're choosing to do in order to get to that 15% better that you need for the incentives through the CMFNH program. And some might just be completely brand new to you. So the 15% better than 2013 Title 24 is the exact same performance target required by Energy Star. We decided to keep that as aligned and simple as possible by adopting the same standard. And then while there is some overlap in the testing and verification that you have to do for Title 24, there will be some additional ones required by Energy Star, and you'll see them on the next couple of slides. So in terms of the actual prerequisites, Energy Star worked with TRC over the last year to modify them to better align with Title 24 language. And we basically identified prerequisites that reference specific sections within Title 24. So you'll see that some of these prerequisites are the exact same as some of the mandatory requirements in Title 24, and some might reference requirements in the prescriptive approach of Title 24, which you may not be familiar with if you've been utilizing the performance compliance approach. But the goal was to just keep referencing text that came straight out of Title 24. Some of the Energy Star prerequisites may or may not contribute to the 15% energy savings that you need within the energy model, but they are still required for Energy Star certification. So any of the ones that I note on the next couple slides, I'll try and let you know if they do contribute to the model. But as of right now, there's no additional incentive for pursuing Energy Star certification through the CMFNH program. So these are some of the additional costs to certification that won't be offset by any incentives and may or may not contribute to getting you to the 15% requirement. So for right now, we'll just run through on the next couple of slides the Energy Star prerequisites that we determined were above and beyond what is required in CMFNH. And then the complete list will be available online at the end of this year, and we'll send it to TRC so that they can distribute it to everyone that's on this call today. So in general, these are the basic building systems where Energy Star Multifamily High Rise has prerequisites that are going to probably represent a change to your current building design in order to meet Energy Star certification in addition to the 15% that you're trying to get for incentives. So appliances, the first is all appliances in the multifamily high-rise building has to be Energy Star. So if you have specified refrigerators in the apartments, they have to be Energy Star certified. It does not mean that you have to install dishwashers into apartments. It's only if you were planning to install dishwashers, they have to be Energy Star certified. This is a requirement, TRC confirmed that this is a requirement that will not contribute to your 15% savings in the energy model. So in terms of building envelope, Energy Star has a prerequisite that's designed to reduce thermal bridging. So if you weren't already specifying some level of continuous insulation for your building, if you have metal or masonry above grade walls, this would represent a change to your current design. But making this change should contribute to the 15% savings that you need in the energy model. Energy Star also has a prerequisite in place to improve the quality of the insulation installation and explicitly references QII, which you may or may not be familiar with, but is part of the Title 24 Residential Appendix 3.5. And it also might not be part of your standard practice to have a sample of apartments tested for air leakage, but this is a prerequisite of the Energy Star Multifamily High Rise program, and the procedures are the same as described in the residential appendices. The threshold is the same as we have for our national program participants, so it's 0.3 CFM50 per square foot of enclosure. So it's not only measuring air leaking from the exterior walls, but it's also measuring air that's coming from a neighboring apartment into the corridor. So we generally call this our compartmentalization testing instead of just air leakage, because it's more of a performance requirement rather than just isolating the energy loss from cold outside air leaking into the apartment. So on this page, the only one that might contribute to your model and your 15% savings is the first one. The QII and the blower door test will not contribute to your savings. So there are a few Energy Star multifamily high-rise prerequisites related to heating and cooling distribution that are beyond 2013 Title 24, and none of the ones on this page contribute to savings in your model. The first one is the actual testing of in-unit forced air systems for total duct leakage, even if they are fully located within conditioned space. So the national threshold, we changed that to match what you guys see in Title 24, which is less than 10% of the nominal air handler flow. It is understood that this prerequisite is really a performance requirement rather than an energy requirement, since it's not measuring duct leakage to the outside, to an attic, to a garage, the way it would in a single-family home. So this is more of a performance metric. 10% of nominal airflow, that could be for a 2-ton system. It could be 80 CFM of air just leaking in ductwork and not reaching the bedrooms and the living rooms that it was supposed to. So related to that, the ductwork must be designed and installed per ACA Manual D or equivalent, and pressure balancing must be provided in the bedrooms. Duct insulation is installed as it would be for Title 24, but the additional Energy Star requirement is that it be visually inspected. And then finally, if you were utilizing hydronic systems in your building, they must also meet this prescriptive requirement related to variable fluid flow. So again, if you were used to following the performance compliance approach, in order to get Energy Star Multifamily High Rise certification, there are a few times where we'll reference a prescriptive requirement out of Title 24, which is required for our certification, but maybe not required for Title 24 compliance or for CMFNH incentives. So in terms of the actual heating and cooling equipment, the Energy Star Multifamily High Rise prerequisite requires that equipment is sized and selected, and you can follow the procedures set forth in Title 24, Section 140.4. And although they are likely not being specified right now because you're trying to meet 15% savings, atmospherically vented gas furnaces and boilers are just explicitly prohibited in the Energy Star Multifamily High Rise program. So if you are looking for 15% savings and still are specifying these kinds of furnaces and boilers, and you make the switch because you want to meet Energy Star certification, that switch will probably, to a direct vent or a power vented system, is probably going to get you some savings in the energy model towards that 15%. In terms of pumps, pump motors of a certain size, 1 horsepower or larger, have to meet the standards for the NEMA Premium designation and not just be NEMA certified. So there's a difference between being NEMA certified and being NEMA Premium. The Premium designation might get you some savings in the energy model. So there are a few prerequisites related to service water heating that are beyond 2013 Title 24, and unfortunately very few of them are going to help contribute to your 15% savings. The first one, low flow faucets and water sense labeled shower heads and toilets. This saves, in real life, it's going to save energy on the water heating bill. So if you're using gas or electric systems, that energy is going to be reduced if you have a smaller volume of water to heat. And even though toilets don't save, the water won't save any energy, this is still, Energy Star is still part of the EPA, so saving water is still important to the program. Delivery temperatures at these fixtures, faucets and shower heads, do have to be measured below 125 degrees, and there's a maximum storage temperature setting for the in-unit storage tanks that has to be verified to be less than 140 degrees. If you have a central hot water system, there are only certain types of mixing valves that are permitted, and the sizing of any central storage tanks must factor in the use of low flow fixtures and not just use standard rules of thumb. Similar to the heating systems, if you're using atmospherically vented gas water heaters, those are prohibited, so are tankless coils inside our water heaters. And again, if you make the switch to a direct vent or power vented system, you're going to see some savings in your energy model. So last but not least in these prerequisites comes lighting. And none of the ones on this page are going to contribute to your savings, but the prerequisite is that the in-unit lighting is either 100% high efficacy lighting. So the high efficacy is defined the same as what Title 24 uses. The other option is to use 80% Energy Star certified. So it could be 80% Energy Star certified actual fixtures, or it could be just the bulbs are actually Energy Star certified. Again, the other option is to just do everything high efficacy and meet the definition of that in Table 150A or B. We also have in the Energy Star program a prerequisite to ensure that this lighting provides enough illumination. So there's a minimum foot candle that is required inside the apartments. And then on the other hand, because you aren't modeling lighting in the software, we do have a maximum lighting power density. So you can't overlight an apartment because that won't result in true energy savings. So the maximum on the lighting is 1.1 watts per square foot installed. So in the common areas and the exterior, it's a very similar prerequisite for Energy Star. The fixtures can either all be specified as 100% high efficacy using the Title 24 definitions, or it can be 80% Energy Star certified bulbs or fixtures. We again have minimum requirements for illumination. We don't want people installing less light. We want it to be high efficient light that provides enough foot candles. But on the flip side, we do have a maximum on the lighting power densities. We don't want to overlight the spaces and then basically eliminate all the savings that we had by using high efficiency LEDs and CFLs. Exit signs, this is probably something you are already doing, but exit signs have to be either specified as LED or photoluminescent. And I believe TRC said there is a development in process to see if you can take credit for some of these lighting measures in the common areas and exterior that are above 2013 Title 24. So there is potential that this could contribute to your 15% savings in your energy model.
I'll just chime in on that really quick, the lighting issue. So it's certainly under consideration. We're looking into ways to credit improvement above plug loads. It probably won't launch for, I'd say, at least the next year or so. So we'll certainly let everyone know when that is something that folks can take credit for. As of right now, it's not. So
are there any questions? Yeah, because at this point we still have about 20 minutes, and I only have a couple more slides to go. So if people have questions on some of these technical requirements, these prerequisites, I'm happy to field some questions, or Jeff can take them if they're very specific to Title 24 or the energy modeling.
Yeah, and so we do have a few questions, and I'm also curious from you participants, listeners, would you please enter a question if you, I guess what I'm curious to know is, are any of these measures in particular striking you as more challenging? I think that'd be really good feedback for us. So in reference to the prerequisites that Gayathri was just reviewing, which of those kind of stuck out to you as something that would be especially challenging or something that you would want more support on? So I'll let you enter those questions in, and then I'll refer you guys to some of the questions we already have.
Sure.
So I have a question about compatibility with LEED. So LEED and Greenpoint rated. So LEED and Greenpoint rated, which is our kind of more at this point local rating system in California, although I know they're expanding or trying to expand elsewhere. So they recently revised their percentage above code requirements in California to be 10% above 2013 Title 24. Is there any chance or thought that Energy Star will align with LEED and Greenpoint rated to be 10%?
No, we spent a lot of time debating what the performance target should be for California, acknowledging the fact that the 2013 Title 24 standard is probably one of the most progressive in the nation. But the fact is, Energy Star has to represent a building that is 15% better than code. So because the code is so progressive, we still need to achieve 15% savings above that, and that's just, you know, kind of our national stance. So we are unable to do 10%. So the 15%, you know, I was lucky that the CMFNH was on the same page so that we could at least align with them.
Great. So here's another question. Ooh, I have a lot of questions coming in all of a sudden. One sec.
Sure.
Okay. Here's kind of a qualitative question. Why do you think there's only one certified building in California?
I think prior to this, we hadn't made any kind of change to our program documentation to acknowledge Title 24. So the project that went through the pilot was stuck using our program documents that fully reference ASHRAE 90.1, 2007. So I think it was just a very big challenge to decipher and translate everything over to Title 24 language. So for the past year, we've been working to redo the language to make it a lot easier, and we're hoping once we provide you guys with the performance path that's been changed and now fully references Title 24, that will be a little bit easier to use.
Great. Yes, I agree. That's a great response. So thinking ahead, I've got a few questions about future code cycles. So California will be launching the 2016 Title 24, probably in 2017, and then again, California has these 2020 zero net energy goals for new construction. Have you guys already started thinking about how you would update the Energy Star requirements to, I guess, integrate with those code updates?
Yes, at some point, the 15% above code will probably become intangible. So at some point across, the nation, we're, even folks that are adopting 2015 IECC, it's going to become less and less cost effective to squeeze out 15% more savings above those very progressive codes. So at the point that Energy Star decides that, our stance is now 10% above code or 5% above code, that would happen across the country. But as of right now, it's 15%. So I could imagine that if you guys adopt in California a 2016 Title 24, at that point, unless things have changed nationally, Energy Star would still require 50% savings over that more progressive 2016 standard.
And this doesn't pertain to high-rise projects, but for low-rise, California Multifamily New Homes has already implemented a new performance metric, which a lot of you online are already familiar with, but it's more aligned with zero net energy. So the score is similar to the whole house rating. And the entry point for low-rise, which is 3 or fewer stories, is a score of 84. And we don't anticipate changing this this score even as we move on to new code cycles. So it should be consistent, and I'm not sure what other programs are doing to possibly incorporate a similar score, but we may see that expanding elsewhere. Okay, so I'm looking at more questions. So in response to my question about challenging measures, I kind of expected this one, but so QII is the question. So it's frequently failing, and then projects are removing that from their calculations. Is there, let's see, so are we seeing projects using a particular type of insulation to meet QII? That's the real question. So projects have to take QII to get the Energy Star Multifamily High Rise certification. What are our kind of design recommendations for meeting that requirement?
I'm going to see if Jeff wants to chime in on that. In terms of the national program, I mean, we don't reference QII, but our quality insulation installation, generally the ones that pass it are using, an open cell spray foam, a blown cellulose, or a closed cell spray foam. Fiberglass does tend to fail this even at the national level.
I'll unmute you, Jeff, if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, I think also you have the option of complying with the Energy Star testing and verification requirements as well. So this is an alternative. You can do either or.
So if you want to follow up on that question, that's from Susan. You're welcome to, and we can address that follow-up. So just looking down so we have actually quite a few questions. Do you want to take those now, Gayathri, or would you prefer to wrap up your presentation and then take all the questions, or we can do it however you'd like?
No, I don't want to stop the flow. Like, all I was going to show at the very end real fast is just kind of a slide that everyone can just download afterwards and look at it. It's just a summary real fast of what we talked about in the first half of the session, which is just the certification process. So it's just a reminder in just one quick slide. And then I was just going to show our website. So again, the only change that we've made is for California is a performance path, which is not on our website. But pretty much everything else on our website, you just apply to your project, even though it's in California. So the partnership agreement, the eligibility, the actual process, the training resources, all that can apply to you folks out in California. I'm not sure what just happened. Oh, I clicked on a link that was available. But yeah, I'll go ahead and take the other technical questions right now.
Great. So a question about benchmarking. This is a hot topic. So 100% tenant cooperation for the benchmarking. that is a big hurdle. How have you guys worked with folks to, I know this is probably more on the commercial side, but how have you worked with folks to support that? Or what advice are you giving folks to engage tenants?
Yeah, that is definitely going to be a challenge. Again, the commercial program just launched this in September, so I think they acknowledge that it is going to be very challenging for multifamily to collect all that data. It's obviously very easy if it's a master meter building, which we see often in the East. We have seen utilities offer to aggregate the data so that even if your tenants pay their bills and they want to, kind of hide and make their usage anonymous, they do have a way to aggregate all the bills associated with that building's address. So if you have a 100-unit multifamily building, they just send you the lump sum of the 100 units of annual, electric use or gas use. So that would be a great question for PG&E if that's something they can offer. Something else during construction we've seen people do is actually just install kind of a dummy electric meter or gas meter. That way there's an account associated with it. It pulls all the electric usage before it feeds the bank of meters that was split up to the apartment. So those are the two things that we've kind of seen on the national level. But again, we haven't, there's not a lot of buildings that have had time to get certified through the existing, for the existing multifamily approach at this point. So it is a challenge. I'm guessing as more and more utilities get that request, they'll be more open to providing it.
Great. So next question. This is a registry question, so I'm wondering, it might fall on Jeff, or we might have to take it later, but wondering, so there's 2 registries in California. This particular question is, will CalCerts be the provider for the Multifamily High Rise program? So for registering certifications and that kind of thing. So I guess I'll unmute you, Jeff, if you want to take a stab at that.
No, CalCerts isn't involved with registering the Energy Star High Rise documentation. That would be completed through the professional that's documenting the project, and they would submit it to the EPA. Or if you're participating through the CMFNH program and going for the program, then we would do that role as far as documenting it and submitting it to the EPA. It's not required to submit documentation to any HERS registry.
So if a project is taking, like QII, for example, does EPA go on and confirm that the project passed?
That would be accomplished through the testing and verification protocols that are part of the Energy Star High Rise program. There are some above and beyonds that would not. Some of those inspections would be covered through the HERS Rater inspection as part of the CMFNH participation, but not all of them. So there are some above and beyond testing and on-site verification requirements that are necessary.
Right. So if they are taking HERS tests, I think just as a requirement from the CEC, they would need to report those certifications.
If they're claiming credit for a HERS measure, as far as their Title 24 and CMFNH participation, then yes, they would still need to submit the HERS documentation to the registry as they normally would.
So as a follow-up question to that, is there a QA portion, or is Energy Star performing QA on projects that are, I guess, for any of these prerequisites to confirm that they're taking them?
Right. So in terms
that's what the testing and verification accomplishes.
And that's what we do in those 2 submittals. So we're not on site doing any kind of on-site quality assurance, but basically the 2 submittals that come to us, that's how we're verifying that all these measures and these requirements have been met. And it's basically through a file review that gets sent to us.
So I think what the question is getting at is actually like, so in the instance of the HERS Rater or the HERS registries in California, they're doing like a third-party QA. So is there like a percentage of projects that actually Energy Star will go back and QA the rater?
No.
Okay.
So if CalCerts does that, that's still fine, but Energy Star doesn't have that kind of network set up.
Okay. So I'm just looking through the questions again. So could California projects use 15% above ASHRAE 90.1 to prove compliance instead of using Title 24? I guess, so the idea with that question is they're wondering, is 15% above Title 24 more challenging than 15% above ASHRAE 90.1?
That might be a good question for Ted, if you feel like unmuting Ted.
Sure. I just unmuted you, Ted.
Yeah, I would say no. I think we would want to keep, it is in EPA's interest to keep our program requirements aligned with what's going on in the state, because ultimately what we would like to do, and kind of where some of these questions are coming from, is that we want to harmonize the program requirements. As you can see, we're not quite there yet, and hopefully this will allow us to work with the utilities to eventually earn some sort of incentive for earning the Energy Star. So I think it'll be in everyone's interest for us to keep our requirements aligned with Title 24. And to be truthful, I'm not even sure anybody knows the answer on the exact equivalency between ASHRAE 90.1 and Title 24. So we haven't done any type of analysis for that.
Thanks, Ted. So I'm really seeing a trend with questions. A lot of folks are interested to see what will happen as Title 24 becomes more stringent, and I'm sure this is consistent nationwide. So I guess we've addressed this somewhat, but is there anything you want to add on that, Gayathri? So the full question is, I hope that designers of Energy Star and CMFNH recognize that as Title 24 becomes more stringent, there will be technical limits based on both building technology and compliance modeling protocols that will limit the extent that buildings can exceed the code.
Absolutely. And I think the point is, at some point nationally, Energy Star would have to scale back from requiring 15% savings and either make it 10 or 5%. But at that point, that decision would be made, and it wouldn't just be for California, but it'd be for projects nationally. So as of right now, in terms of, if you have a project that is going through CMFNH, I think one of your initial slides says, you have to complete construction by the end of 2017. So if we're talking about projects that are, that's short term, that's near term. If you got your project application in, before the end of this year, nothing's changing on you. The goalpost won't change. It's 15% over the 2013 Title 24.
Great. So this is a question for Jeff. Can you elaborate on the equivalency for QII with Energy Star? That test.
I'm afraid I can't. I think I will probably make it more confusing if I try to go there.
We can, so I think we have so many questions, we'll probably do a little QA PDF to make sure that we address them in kind of an organized way, and then you can reference them later. So I'll work on assembling that, and I'll work with Gayathri, Ted, and Jeff to assemble it, and we can send it out in the next couple, probably the next week or two. I'm just looking to see if there's any other.
I was going to just try and expand on it,
Yeah.
Although I'm not fully familiar with how they're failing QII or what that technically means. But in our national program, we have a quality, we have a very similar requirement for quality installation of your insulation. The alternative is not a testing alternative. The alternative is if you provide continuous insulation it's not that it's waived. In the national program, there's various grading criteria. So there's a grade 1, a grade 2, and a grade 3. So basically, it exempts you from achieving grade 1 if you do this alternative. So that might have been where Jeff was trying to get at, but I can work with him to understand, was it Susan's question about whether, projects are failing QII and what the alternative is. I would expect that if they are specifying continuous exterior insulation at a minimum of R3 or R5, that we would be waiving this QII as a requirement in Energy Star.
Am I muted? Can you guys hear
You are.
me?
You're unmuted.
Okay, that's correct, Gayathri. I mean, I think there's these different levels of QII, and like you said, if you do the continuous greater than what's required, you can skip one level of that. As far as the question of why people are failing, I mean, I think it goes back to the low-rise residential, and it's just too expensive to do, and so people are deciding to not do that option. Is my understanding of why people are failing it. And what because for this program, we're actually requiring that the residential QII requirements are met. So I mean, it's definitely going, I guess it's a heavy requirement for the program if it's deemed too expensive for a lot of the low-rise residential projects.
So we have actually about 1 minute left, and I think we're good on questions. Some I didn't take because I'd like to clarify with you afterwards what were you asking in particular. So if you can go to the last slide, Gayathri, I think if you're happy, I will just wrap up. So I just wanted everyone to see, so we'll share this, this slide deck with everyone in the next week or so, and then I'm also recording it, so we have a YouTube channel now for CMFNH where I'll be loading this presentation, and we'll share that link with you. And if you're interested in participating in the Energy Star Multifamily High Rise program, I think Gayathri had contact info on the last slide, but you can also write to me, and if you're at the same time applying to CMFNH, we can do a lot of internal support to inform your design if you are not sure exactly how you can meet the 15% and then some of those other prerequisites. We're happy to help you brainstorm and test out different measures. So my contact is at the bottom, stodd@trcsolutions.com. You can also write to info@cmfnh.com. And as I mentioned before, if you have any applications that you're hoping to submit, I encourage you to do so very soon. Our application deadline is November 15th. So feel free to give me a call if you have any questions. That's my phone number at the top. Anything else that anyone wants to add? Okay, I think we're good. So thank you so much for attending this webinar. The next one we've got scheduled is for, I think, goodness, I've already forgot the date, but it's in December. We'll be doing high R-value walls. So that's going to be great, and Matt Christie will lead that. So we'll be talking with you soon. And thanks, Gayathri, for leading this presentation. It was really interesting. We look forward to bringing some new multifamily high-rise projects on in California. All right, have a great rest of your day.